XOXO Gossip Girl. Hello sunshine, it's Rachel. I'm here to rant about some stuff. It is real lucky that I always film more than one intro, so I don't have to use the same one twice. Welcome to part 2. Part 2 of my Gossip Girl video. Here is the rest of my opinions about Gossip Girl. Kate, take it away, past Rachel. Now let's get into character development. Let's put it this way. For the most part, the character development on the show is the worst. I'm going to start with Nate, who is actually the person I wrote about last, because he is one of the main 5 characters. However, his character gets abandoned. It's just the shortest to talk about him. So I don't have a lot to write about in this for him or talk about for him, because his character gets abandoned. Like the first few seasons, he does, I feel like, grow as a person. He changed, I feel like he does have pretty good character growth, but then at a certain point he just becomes a plot device and I wrote floozy. A floozy. I don't like the word, but he just basically exists to move plot along and to sleep with random women, because that's what's entertaining. He just doesn't really serve a purpose, which, I mean, you don't have to serve a purpose. I guess that's not what I mean. He does serve a purpose, but that's all he does. He serves a purpose and has no personality after a few seasons. He's really little ball of light. At the end, they reveal that Nate never sent in a tip about to Gossip Girl about anybody. So in the end, it's just kind of he just does nothing is the thing. And I think that is a waste of his character, but also I don't know what you would do with him either. Now I'm gonna move through by people I have the least to say about, and to the most. No? Yes, because I started with Nate. So the person I have the second least to say about is Blair. I think she has somewhat good character development. I feel like she starts out and she's just completely cold, doesn't care about anybody, and she ends and she cares about a lot of different people in her life. And that's good character development. However, I also just think the way she ends, where her character ends, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think it does make sense for her and Chuck to end up together. It was the most popular ship on the show. However, I just don't understand why she would end up working for her mom, replacing her mom. She is interested in fashion. However, everything up to that point, she showed she wanted to be a businesswoman, be very powerful and all of this stuff. And then I guess she is both of those things. I feel like there could have been ways to develop that didn't involve her just taking over for her mom. She's so independent that I don't understand why she would just rely on her mom, and also why so much of her storyline would rely on Chuck. I think that one is a little more iffy. I'm yeah, it kind of makes sense, but also she seems like the kind of person who wouldn't want to rely on anybody, and I feel like she does. So I don't know. I don't have really anything else to say about her, so we're gonna move on. So I'm gonna move on to Serena. Once again, it's similar to what I said with Eleanor and Lily. There's a whole lot of not committing in this show to one thing. Eleanor can't commit to being a good parent or being absolutely terrible. Lily can't commit to being strict or very free parent. I don't know. Yeah, and then Serena, she doesn't commit to anything. But Serena, she has a very like cyclical character development, which the thing is, I feel like if the show committed to it harder, it would be better. But it just seems like when the plot needs Serena to be a bad girl, party hard, she is that. And when the plot needs her to be like, I'm better now, I'm a better person, she is that. And it's kind of like, I don't like that. I think it would be better if you committed to the, she was like a bad girl, she partied, she accidentally killed somebody, she slept with everybody, but now she's a better person, and maybe sometimes she slips up, but overall she's trying to be a better person. Or if you committed to Serena pretends she's a better person, but she really is just in this cycle of not abuse, that's what I thought of this, not abuse, cycle of mistakes? I don't really know. I don't know what word I want, but like a cycle of character development. It's not really development because she just moves in a circle. It's also just like they tell us a lot that she's a better person, but they almost never show it. They don't really show us that she's a better person. She's just she tells everyone, she's like, I've changed, but she doesn't show that she's changed at all. I honestly think it would have been better if the show tried to make a point about how she constantly falls into the same trap over and over, and that's part of her character, but it doesn't feel like that was the point of it. They didn't try to do that, it just happened. And her entire like personality is basically based on whatever guy she's seeing, which I think is super problematic. I feel like she needs to spend some time alone and get her own personality. I don't think she should have ended up with anybody in the end. I also think that like there were opportunities to make her grow as a person, and they didn't take it, which I think is more clear with Chuck, the fact that there are so many missed opportunities. But with Serena, I think one of the biggest things that makes me upset about her character is the fact that in the first season, they make her leaving for boarding school such a big deal. She felt so bad about sleeping with Nate while he was dating Blair, and then accidentally, she didn't actually kill the guy, but she was there for the death of somebody, and she was like, they showed it as like something so traumatic. And then in I think the fourth season with Juliet, they show her at boarding school and she's just exactly the same person. She like left and then was still partying and like doing drugs and like not caring about school, and it just doesn't make sense with what they told us in the first like 2 seasons. All right, Chuck, here's the thing about Chuck. I love Chuck not for what he is, but what he could have been, if that makes sense. He, I think, had so much potential and so many opportunities to make his character more interesting and have his character actually develop, but they just never took it. I do want to note, I think that his characterization in the first episode ruins it. If you consider the very first episode canon, where he, tries to force himself on 2 separate women in 1 episode, then he's pretty irredeemable because he doesn't ever even apologize for it. Well, I think he apologizes for one of them, but not the other. And then there's also Blair's casual statement in the first episode about how Chuck brags about his like conquests and not his victims or something like that, which is like, rough. Editing Rachel, I have done research and have a little more information. Pilot episodes are filmed to be shown to the network. And so once the show has been backed, after the pilot has been shown and approved, they only reshoot the pilot if major changes were made. So with Gossip Girl, no major changes were made, so it wasn't reshot, which is why I personally pretend the characterization of Chuck from the pilot episode doesn't exist, and feel okay about it. It's because I think Chuck being, bad to that degree is a change that would have been made if they had refilmed it. But they didn't, and so I pretend it doesn't exist. You do not have to. You don't have to agree with me. That's it, bye. But if you include the first episode into your knowledge of Chuck, I find him irredeemable. Because that would mean he was a serial bad person. Anyways, so ignoring the first episode because I choose to do that, I think that even though he still starts off as a terrible person, I think they missed a lot of opportunities to make him actually become a better person, because it was an easier plot to have him keep going back to being like Chuck Bass and like all brooding and bad and manipulative. Like, I think one of the best opportunities would have been, he dates that girl whose name I can't remember, who he met in Prague, who like nursed him back to health. And I don't think they should have ended up together, but I think it would have been a much better plot point if dating her and living as like a normal person in Europe actually like changed him long term. If like he came back and like the whole charity thing and the like trying to improve the world thing maybe didn't stick as much with her, but like stayed more or less the same. Like if he genuinely changed from that experience, but he doesn't seem to, because what happens is, Blair like makes the girl go away, and then Chuck gets angry and he's like, I'm gonna ruin your life. And it's just like, I think it would have been better if Blair, I do think the jealousy part is like a good touch, because like it shows that even when they're not together, Chuck and Blair care about each other, even though Chuck, did some really messed up things to Blair earlier. But I think that if Blair had the jealousy thing but then didn't like intervene to have them break up and have her leave, and they just like naturally realized that even though like they really love each other, like Chuck and Prague girl whose name I forgot, like dated, and they were like, even though we love each other, we're just not meant to be, and then they break up mutually and she like leaves. Like, I think that would be much better for the plot. And I just also think there's so many different like plot points where like he could have been a better person and he just didn't become a better person. So I think that it's just so many missed opportunities. That's the one that I think of. That's where I would have liked him to continue to become a better person, because I think it would have been an easy thing, but they didn't care about that. There's still plenty of drama that could exist while also allowing your characters to become better people. You know what I mean? Like, your drama doesn't have to come from your characters remaining the same as they were in high school. It's just uncreative to me. But yeah, I think just so much wasted potential. That's Chuck, wasted potential. Lastly, we're going to talk about Dan. Dan is Gossip Girl. And I just want to note that most of my bullet points on him are about how much I don't like him. I think there are a lot of issues with Dan. I think, so from what I know, I think there's conflicting reports. Some people who worked on the show said that they knew it would be Dan from the beginning, and some people have said that they were changing who Gossip Girl was based on who the public was predicting. And I just would have rather they had a Gossip Girl in mind from the beginning and put in little signs that it was like this person was Gossip Girl, so that when you rewatched it, you like could see those little Easter eggs. It just doesn't seem like they have that. And there's also like plot holes, which I mean, there's so many plot holes, but like there's plot holes specifically about Dan being Gossip Girl. And it's just like, I mean, there's always excuses and workarounds for how it could happen. It's just a whole thing. And I mean, I talked about it. I think him being Gossip Girl in the end is a very like manipulative thing. But I, in general, don't have any issues with Dan being Gossip Girl. I think it fits his character. And I think his reasoning, like the reasoning at the end, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like the whole, to his character, like he's so into literature and writing. He's a writer or an author. Same difference. But the whole like looking around and realizing he had to write himself into the story, I think that makes sense for his character. And I know some people probably don't agree with me, and I know a lot of people don't like that he's Gossip Girl. I personally don't have an issue with it. I don't necessarily think it's well done, but I don't hate it. I really don't like his character in general. He reminds me so much of like the whole nice guy thing of like, I'm a nice guy, and then you're really like the biggest jerk in the world. I will say I do feel as if his character development is the best out of the main five. I wouldn't say he necessarily like changes that much of like into a better person. His character development kind of went the other way. When you meet him, he's like, I mean, still kind of a jerk. He's still a little bit of a jerk, but he is very much like, I don't want anything to do with these lies. I just want to get into Yale, and I don't think Yale is where he started out wanting to go, but whatever. He's like, I just want to go to Yale and get a degree in writing and like all this stuff. Like he doesn't really care about the money and the wealth and all of that. I mean, he cares because he doesn't have it, and you know, that's a situation, but all he really wants is to have a good relationship with Serena and to become an author. And like, is interesting because as you watch, he's still like at the beginning a manipulative and toxic person because he is Gossip Girl, but as the show goes on, he plays more and more into the lies that are told, into the drama. He creates drama. He starts off a judgmental person, and he kind of becomes a more judgmental person as time goes on. I feel like he develops more. He like starts caring more about what people think of him. He cares more about image. He becomes a worse person, and like he develops as a character. It's not positive development, but it doesn't have to be, you know? There you have it. Dan Humphrey, good for something. Character development. Okay, so the next section is gonna be plot. I have 3 main problems with the plot. 1, it moves too fast. So someone else pointed this out, and then I noticed and haven't been able to stop noticing, but the plot lines like are so pushed together. They have like so many small plot lines in a season for the 4 in the middle, because there's 6 seasons. The first season and the last season are shorter, and even though the plot lines go kind of quick in those, there are less of them, and so it feels like it goes less fast. But my big issue is like, because things go so quickly, this leads into my second issue. This isn't my second issue. Sorry, it does lead into my second issue, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Nothing like really gets a time to sit. It doesn't really like sink in that things are happening. You're just like on to the next thing. And that's not great because you're just kind of like, whatever. Which leads into my second issue, for real this time, which is that nothing has consequences. Like, nothing has consequences. Things happen and there are no consequences. There's like a few things that have consequences, but for the most part, there are none. There are none. Like, Juliet does a lot of illegal stuff to Serena. No consequences for her. I mean, like, there's a few, like, she has to drop out of Columbia, but like in the long run, she should have been in jail. No consequences. Just like so many different things. It's like there should have been consequences for that, but there aren't. You can do bad things and nothing happens. And like sometimes there's small things that you have to deal with, but for the most part, there are no consequences. And like the show will try to give a consequence and then it'll just like back out of it. They like brush off consequences like they're cobwebs. And I feel like consequences should be a little bit more like brick walls in the way. You know, like I want to see people work to deal with things, and instead most of the time it just feels like they're like, oh, this is annoying. I'm like, don't be annoyed, have a real struggle. And then, which goes along with like, nothing is permanent. Like, nothing is permanent. The only things that really feel permanent in the show are the things that we like that were in place in the last episode. Like, Serena and Dan are married, Chuck and Blair are married. Like, those are things that we're like, well, this is permanent because this is where they left it. They're not touching it again. I like it more in shows where you can trust that something is going to stay the same.
All right, so editing Rachel, as I'm watching this, I think I was tired, talked a lot, didn't really get to the point, so I'm just going to cut in here and get to the point of what I'm trying to say with the lack of permanence. So some of what I'm trying to talk about is that it's just nice to have something that you can trust that will stay throughout the show. That's nice. But the bigger issue is that if you know that nothing is permanent, that no relationship is going to last, none of the things that happen are going to last, then all of the stakes throughout the plot are super low. They're like crazy low because you're like, who cares? It's like when shows just keep resurrecting people. Then anytime someone dies, you're just like, who cares? Anytime anybody gets together in Gossip Girl, you're like, it's not gonna last, so who cares? And that is the bigger issue here.
They just look at everything and they're like, well, we'll just ruin all of this. None of this is permanent. You can't trust anything that we tell you. And I have an issue with that. Like, no, there has to be something we can rely on beyond them being terrible people. It's the only thing you can rely on in Gossip Girl. The third issue I have with the plot is that because, and this is an issue that like you can see in other shows too, but like they keep having to up themselves. They keep having to go bigger, be more dramatic, have crazier things happen. But because they keep doing it, then they have to keep getting crazier. And it's an issue that I feel like if they just planned the seasons better, like from the beginning, it would work better. Like, it just gets frustrating, and like the plot devices get thinner and thinner and thinner, and like it's just not a good situation. Anyways, any hoozles. That is my opinion of Gossip Girl. I do genuinely really love Gossip Girl, and I said at the beginning this was all of my opinions, but it's nowhere near all of my opinions. I didn't even talk about some of the characters that I have opinions on, such as Vanessa and Jenny and Penelope and Nellie. Like, I have so many opinions on them, but I didn't write them down and my throat hurts, so I won't talk about them. If you want me to make a second video talking about the rest of my opinions on Gossip Girl, comment down below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified every time I post a new video, go ahead and ring the notification bell. I'll have links to my social media down in my description below, so hit me up, baby. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Peace, love, and buttercups. I don't know how long I just talked because I have no concept of time, but my throat hurts. It's brainstorming time. My throat hurts. I'm dying.
We did it. We made it to the end. Bye.